Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Bushman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at each life path number, the forecast for the new moon that's occurring on September 14th or 15th, depending on where you live within the world. So before we break it down, I just want to mention that this is, of course, a general reading. If you're interested in a personalized reading where we'll take a look at your own personal numerology in a variety of ways, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. I would love to work with you. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Life path number 5. So for you all, this new moon brings the energy of the 9 and prairie dog. So with the 9 energy, I want to talk about that first. So with the 9 energy, when we go through a 9 cycle, it can bring things to completion or closure. So there could be some things that are closing out, that are falling away, that are being released. A lot of times when we move through these closures, it's really kind of showing us that, everything's transient, that everything moves in cycles. So we can't get too attached to something because at some point it's going to be released, right? In some way, shape, or form. And so the energy of the 9 just reminds us that as things come in, we sort of use them for whatever we need to use them for. We experience that energy, those people, those things, and then we release when it's time to release. And that can be done in a very gentle, loving, nurturing way. And if we become too attached to something, then of course it becomes much more difficult to release it. So you might find around this new moon that things are coming up, kind of the things that need to fall away, the things that have served their purpose, the things that contract is now done and completed, fall away, right? And that's to create space for this, whatever it is that wants to come in now around this new moon, that wants to be initiated. And so with the 9, it's a very interesting cycle to be in because we can see things fall away, but then we can see things come in quite quickly to replace them. We're not necessarily meant to, in a 9 cycle, take action on those new things that come in, but we're meant to be sort of more in receiving mode to see, okay, what's coming in. I've already put forth the effort. So now what is coming to me? And then whatever comes to me, I decide how I want to work with it, how I want to use it, how I want to incorporate it, if I want to incorporate it. So it's not so much about taking action and going out and trying to find or force or, whatever. It's more about things coming to closure and falling away, creating space, and then new things coming in, kind of like an ebb and flow, but a very natural, organic ebb and flow. And so, there's no control, there's no need to sort of try to have, too much control over the situation. It just kind of happens naturally. So for you all, I would say, and 5s are typically very adaptable. They're very able to kind of go with the flow, right? It's just really such a part of your core energy. But with this 9, it could test a little bit, right? Because you might be asked to release things that you're not quite ready mentally or emotionally to release just yet. But just know that as it's being released, what is now meant to come in for you for this next chapter, for the next part of your journey, will be presented to you. And then you can decide what to do with it and if it works for you or not. The other thing with this is there's definitely something with 9 energy about like community and giving back and being a greater part of your community, sharing your time, resources, expertise in some way that helps to uplift, empower, inspire others. 9 energy is that of the humanitarian. So when it comes in a cycle, we can be asked to give more selflessly of ourselves. We can be asked to sort of have more empathy, compassion, grace, not only for self, but for others as well. And to work together, come together in harmony type thing, connection over separation. Where, what role do we play in that when it comes to our relationships? Or, our connections, not just with the people that we feel safe and comfortable with, but the people that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So you may see that with the 9 energy, that you're sort of confronted with, people, places, things that you're not very forgiving, or you haven't been very gracious with your time, energy, resources, etc. And so, or in giving that grace to that other person, or being empathetic. And we are all sort of quote unquote guilty of that at some point, right? So in a 9 cycle, it sort of sheds light on where it is that we need to sort of fall back a little bit, sort of lean into our receptivity, but also become more aware of how it is that we can give back, and how it is that we can, and whether, that's just through forgiveness, compassion, empathy, grace, etc. Or time, money, resources, whatever sort of works for your situation. But there could be some strong themes that come up around that. Now with prairie dog, it's interesting because these two energies, of course, work really beautifully together. The prairie dog is all about community. If you've ever seen a prairie dog community, it's like they're constantly talking with one another. They're looking out for one another. It's a network of collaboration. Collaboration is the perfect word. And so there is definitely something about coming together, again, having sort of understanding for other people's experiences, situations, their place on their own journey type thing, giving each other grace, so that you can work together. So there may be something here, 5s, where you're really being asked to be the bigger person in a situation, because when 9 energy comes in, there's a lot of that where it's kind of like, okay, you need to be the one to reach out. You need to be the one to say, I'm sorry. You need to be the one to, does it feel great? Not always, right? Because the ego and pride always step in. But, what you can accomplish through that can be great and mighty. And so the 9 reminds us of that. So with prairie dog and the 9, there's definitely something here about coming together, working together, collaboration, seeing the greater community and humanity and your place within that, and the role that you play. And are you happy with that role? Do you feel good about it? Does it, how does it enhance your connections? So a lot there with sort of getting more involved in the community around this time would be possible as well. But again, I would say, pay attention to what comes to you, what presents itself to you. And it could be a situation where that friend from 10 years ago that you had a falling out with, you see them or they reach out to you. How are you going to handle that? And the 9 will sort of test us in that way. Are we going to hold them to what happened 10 years ago and that's who they are and will always be? Or are we going to be open to, all right, let me see how they've evolved and are there changed behaviors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what do we need to do to work together so that we can work together to harmonize, to find balance? So you may see things like that crop up with a 9 cycle. So a lot kind of a lot around, I don't want to say mending bridges and all of that, but there could be a lot of, this could be sort of an emotional cycle in a sense as well, because with 9 energy, again, there can be a lot of release. There can be a lot of having to be the bigger person, forgiving people who, or things that you haven't received that apology for, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be a little deep, let's put it that way, but nothing you can't handle, 5s. So beautiful energy here, and then also, this is just a great time for collaboration, which is beautiful for 5s as well. So, yeah, I would also say there might be something here about overseas travel, which I know sounds really random, but you might see that as well for some of you. So if that opportunity comes up, I would say absolutely say yes to it, because you could meet people that you can collaborate with that you never even would have thought that you would be collaborating with. So you just never know. But love this energy for you all. Can be a little bit deep, a little bit of emotional stuff coming up for you around this time, but pay attention to what it's trying to show you. All right, 5s, hope it's a great one. Take care. Bye for now.